I'm writing this in attempts to understand my own lascivious nature and to openly wrestle with my demons currently expressing themselves through a porn addiction, and to share the findings of what and who are the cause of what I've come to understand as the Godfathers of modern day sexuality that are plaguing us on every level of our swipe left, Uber Eats, instant message, Instagram, introverted imitation of intimacy, while ignorantly exciting our intellectual capacity that grows bloated with that extra meme all about it while living our best lie mentality. Instead of going outside, meeting someone, and having a real, sometimes uncomfortable, but deep and meaningful conversation. Because rubbing one out or double-clicking your mouse gives us that oh-so-sweet instant gratification that leaves us desensitized, neutered shadows of ourselves. So strap in, so we can see why so many of us are strapping up, swapping hormones, and killing babies like it's going out of style. This is part 1 of the Godfathers of modern-day sexuality. Dr. Alfred C. Kinsey, born in Hoboken, New Jersey, on June 23, 1894. He passed August 25, 1956. He is one of the godfathers of modern-day sexuality. Probably best known for his first book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male. Not so known for how he got this information. Kinsey would interview anybody for his scientific research. No topic too raunchy, no act too far, no orientation off the table. Kinsey gathered information on everything from everybody, even the sexuality of children. Collecting information from infants to teens. Kinsey would acquire this information by interviewing pedophiles. It is believed that he gave them specific instructions on how to calculate the abuse, even timing what was believed to be a child's orgasm. One of the most frightening facts about this case study is that his co-workers refused to inform the police of the methods used, identified the patients interviewed or their victims. It was said by one of his co-workers in one of those mini documentaries that I watched while gathering this information, that Kinsey was so sexually desensitized, he circumcised himself with a pocket knife for some kind of stimulation. If we were only going to quote the people who had nothing but good things to say about Kinsey and his work, they would say the bulk of his so-called evidence came from one man, that being Rex King, aka Mr. Green. He was a U.S. government land examiner. This job would aid in his abusive nature because in order to do this job, he had to travel across the country. The rest of the information was collected from various prisoners during their incarceration. It's also believed that a high-ranking Nazi official reported to Kinsey as well. It's important to note he only interviewed the pedophiles for the information gathered in Chapter 5, and never the children on the receiving end. So the best we get in this book is one-sided information. If we were to completely ignore the moral side of this argument and look at it as purely scientific, we could call it bad science. Because according to everyone who was speaking on behalf of Kinsey, this information was completely biased. Kinsey's work was considered genius, revolutionary, and is quoted even to today by the public and the institutions dedicated to carrying on his work, praising him for his scientific findings. But let's keep in mind that in this chapter of this book, he's arguing for having sex with children. And in his argument, he claims this could be pleasurable and beneficial for the children. But this science he uses wouldn't have been considered science in any other field. The findings weren't his, and the sources were biased. In other words, the information wasn't real. It was just a sad attempt to justify the behaviors of evil people. This is nothing more than perverse, dangerous, and disgusting. If you could ask a disease if what it was doing was good, right, or moral for the body that it was in, would you trust it to give an honest answer? I don't know that I would. I don't think you should. So I wonder why Kinsey thought asking pedophiles if what they were doing was good for the children they were doing it to. I wonder why he makes an argument for the benefits of having sex with children, pre-adolescent children, and infants. I don't understand how you can arrive at the idea of this being beneficial for anybody other than the pedophile. This abuse was obviously negligent on Kinsey's behalf and evil on the behalf of all parties except the victim. Kinsey's research is the equivalent to trying to understand racism from the point of view of a KKK member or eugenics from the point of view of a Nazi sympathizer. Of course they're going to make it sound better than it is. Why wouldn't they? But if you were to write a book, you wouldn't publish it as if they're the authorities on the topic. For instance, Kinsey claims that 10% of the population will be gay. This statistic stems from the information gathered in Chapter 5. We now have the highest gay population this country's ever seen, and it's still under 5%. So here we have definitive evidence that proves his findings are at the very best flawed, if not what I believe, completely wrong. At least as far as this so-called benefits for this type of abuse. So why do we still praise a man that we know that the evidence proves is wrong? A man that has books, TV shows, movies dedicated to him, his findings, and his ideas. I could understand if this was the man that exposed pedophile rings, that helped catch one of the biggest pedophiles this country had ever seen, the man that got harsher sentences for the pedophiles that were already in jail. But this is the man that protected all parties mentioned. The man that refused to expose them so we will never know who to protect our children from. The man who some pedophiles claim to be encouraged by. And there's no secret code to gathering this information. I didn't have to meet with any insidious characters to obtain this book. I'm no scholar on the subject. All I needed was a name and a library card. So why is this man celebrated? Okay, he started a conversation that this country needed to have about sex. But is this country better after that conversation? I mean, STDs are out of control. Pornography is a billion-dollar industry. The youth of today have no interest in ever getting married or building families. We're having slut walks, and now prostitute is a dirty word. They prefer sex workers. We despise free-thinking women just because of their political background, like Candace Owen, but at the same time praise women like Cardi B, who have outright said to drug men and rob them. I honestly don't know what we profit from this conversation, or profited from it. I'm not a prude person, but when I stand back and look at how we as a country have changed, I cannot honestly say it was for the better. The only answer to the why do we still praise this man that makes any sense to me is his book okays our sin. And we love our sin. We need it. We want it. And we don't want to hear anyone tell us that we can't have it or we're bad because of it. And this book gives us exactly what we want. This man told us it was okay to be driven by our lust, lost in it. No matter what it is, no matter who it's with or how often it is, because Kinsey's book drives us further away from the only book we really need to read. This book is the product of the imagination of a sick man struggling with his own sexuality in a very conservative and prude time in America. Unable to satisfy his appetites, he sought to normalize them by exposing the appetites of others. Unfortunately, he went too far, and in doing so, he proved one of the most important things this country and world had discovered, and that is sex sells. No matter who you have it with or sell it to, sex sells.